Welcome to the Rebel Radio Show. It's live, uncut, and uncensored on CBW Radio. It's the last station you'll ever need, the best variety of the past 7 decades. Completely format-free, uncut, and uncensored. Big shout-out again to Year of October for doing the intro. I've had tons of people hit me up and be like, what the fuck's that song? That's
Yeah.
Like, that's Year of October, man. You can get it right here on CBW or go to yearofoctober.com. It's Wastelands Part 2 off the Wastelands album. To my left is Shaney.
Hey, everyone.
Back in the Marley House is Jules.
Hello.
I'm radio's Rebel DJ style, and I think...
Oh, wait, do that again. I had a plan. Shad caught me off guard. Do it again.
Do what again?
Introduce me.
Jules.
Wait, introduce me again.
Jesus Christ. Shane.
Hey, everyone.
Jules.
Good evening.
Oh.
Okay. I think I need to lay some precursor here, because there's gonna be a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason. Okay, so I'm already ahead of myself. For the past 3 years, this has been the #1 most requested conspiracy theory. However, we are just now getting to it. And I'll explain a little bit why here in a minute as to why now I think is the good time. But we're going to be talking about 9/11 today.
Yeah.
With that, we're going to be obviously touching a lot of theories. It's an infinite well of different theories, of different topics varying in validity. And it's a really controversial one, if you hadn't known.
Also, too, I'd like to make this very clear. Nothing but respect and thanks to those who lost their life in 9/11. It's a very serious thing, and so conspiracy theories can get into like a weird gray area of like, you know, which side are they on, side of thing, and I don't know. It's very important that, you know, the people lost their life, and so, you know, we have a lot of respect, and we will tread lightly in topics, you know.
Yeah, it's exactly where I was going with it. This is not us bashing the families or the people who've lost their lives in 9/11. Obviously, it is a real tragic event. The conspiracy is just how it came about. People had lost their lives, and people were heroes in that situation as well. And obviously, prayers go out to all the families of people that lost their lives in September 11th, 2001. Also, on top of that, the reason I'm choosing that we should do this now, regardless of the fact it's been the most requested for 3 years, it seems to me, I thought about this earlier, that we talked last week about how conspiracy in general is becoming more of an accepted ideology, where you're not the... I'm sure there's still plenty of groups that look at that, but you're not the tinfoil hat, this person's crazy, you don't believe my word. We're open to the opinion of a conspiracy theorist more now, but more so with 9/11 in particular, we, being like the 99 to like 01 kids, early 2001 kids, are the last generation that existed in a pre-9/11 world, but didn't get to really experience a pre-9/11 world. So we got all of the backlash of, hey, this wouldn't have been like this before September 11th, and we grew up with the whole anti-Middle East sentiment, and we had to evolve, much like with technology, we had to evolve with how our government and our world changed with the events of 9/11. That being said, I think it's more acceptable to talk about now, and it will be more going forward, too. And my prediction is that more will be uncovered about what might have actually happened on that day going forward, as more generations who weren't subject to that trauma are being brought into this world.
As it becomes less biased towards, you know, people supporting or not supporting, you know, things like that.
My big thing, and I'm sure everyone who talks about this goes through this, is you don't want to come off offensive. Because at the end of the day, whether it was international or domestic, there was a terror attack, people lost their lives, and it's a major... sad moment of the United States.
It's still these conspiracies that we talk about will get very in depth, but like it's still a serious topic at the end of the day.
My whole point with that is I think we're in a good position to look at it from both sides, whereas the next generation, how I could talk to like my 14-year-old cousin, and he probably wouldn't have half the attachment I do, and I know I don't have half the attachment that, say, my dad would, who lived and had a life in pre-9/11 world, then experienced post-9/11 world. I was alive for pre-9/11, but I never really experienced it until after the towers fell. Whereas now, this next generation, Gen Z, has only ever lived in post 9/11 world, and it's just kind of that's why you see more memes, I guess, and more people open to conspiracy because they don't have that emotional attachment. They realize it was a traumatic event, but they are not personally attached. That being said, we do like to clarify this is conspiracy. It's conspiracy season. That is why we're doing this. Take everything with a grain of salt. There's going to be individual beliefs. There's going to be pop culture beliefs. There's going to be your beliefs at home. That doesn't mean anything is solid fact. Do your own research. You are open to your own opinion. That being said, where do we begin with 9/11?
I mean,
the
whole like
overarching theory. 9/11 was an inside job.
Yeah, 9/11 was done by either the government or forces within our government that were trying to sweat. Yeah.
So overarching theory, 9/11 was an inside job, and I said this earlier, and I hate to say it, I really do, because it is a traumatic event, and there is still a lot of evidence that does point to it was a terror attack from the Middle East. And again, anytime that significant lives are lost and we enter into war with a country, it's hard to say, oh no, that's not real. I might be leaning towards the conspiracy aspect of this. This is one that always interests me because we're like, everyone knows almost to a comedic extent at this point that I am anti-moon landing. I don't believe we ever landed on the moon.
Yeah.
Prove it to me.
Yeah.
Whereas we've talked a lot of theories like Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster or cryptids like that where I'm like, it's a good theory, but I don't know how true it is. This one for me is really that dividing line of there's a lot here that could go either way. And the big things that people like to talk about is, number one, the false flag policy. If you don't know what a false flag policy is, it is a reason for the U.S. to go into war and blame another country. Now, the United States, if you know anything about history and about government, we will never enter into a war unprovoked. That's why we stayed out of World War II as long as we did. That's why we didn't go and invade the Middle East until the events of 9/11. And false flag is a real policy. It's a real thing that is used. There's evidence of it. The Vietnam War is a great instance of it. The Gulf of Tonkin, is that it? Gulf of Tonkin? Gulf of Tonkin incident where they said that a U.S. attack on the U.S. was conducted at the Gulf of Tonkin, which turned out to be proven as entirely false, but it was a reason for us to go and invade Vietnam. The definition for a false flag operation is a committed act with the intent of disguising the actual source of responsibility and pinning the blame on another party. It originated in the 16th century, meaning international misinterpretation of someone's allegiance. So just that. It is. Right. And again, we do have solid examples of this being a thing.
It's a being sneaky to take down the
It's literally an excuse to go to war. Put in layman's terms. Again, we entered into war with Spain with the USS Maine, the boat that went down that was said to be sunk by Spanish, but it turned out to be a fire. It had nothing to do with the Spaniards sinking a boat, but we went to war with them because we were told that. And in the case of Vietnam and the Gulf of Tonkin, I'm gonna keep butchering that because I'm trying to get all this in quick. But in that instance, it has been proven that was a fake thing. It's taught in history books now that instance never happened and was just an excuse to get us into Vietnam. There's people that believe...
like how the moon landing was for...
for the space race. For the Cold War.
Yeah, Cold War space race.
Yeah. There is some that believe Pearl Harbor was for the same reasons to get us involved in World War II. That's another conspiracy for another time, but essentially the false flag policy when regards to 9/11 believes that George Bush or the U.S. government or some organization operating within the United States planned to take down the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and either the Capitol building or White House. On this day, it was orchestrated by the United States government in an attempt for us to go to war with Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, Afghanistan, Iraq, because it would bring a wartime economy.
The war on terror.
Yes. And if you don't know anything about history, the wartime economy is generally when, because we're at war with a nation, we are relying on American-made products, and it drives heavy industry in America, which is really good if you're the person in political charge, which George Bush was at the time. So if you ever hear the meme or the saying, Bush did 9/11, that is why that correlates back to that. So under the false flag policy, the biggest theory, I think, is how the towers went down. Let's spend some time on this. 2 planes hit 2 towers. And the towers completely collapsed, and the means in which they collapsed is still highly contested. It came straight down.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different things at play here. Was it detonation? Detonation experts have been shown this film on multiple occasions, along with other buildings collapsing. They say, oh, yeah, no, that was planned detonation.
Yeah.
Because of how clean it fell. There was nothing in the surrounding area, except for Building 7, destroyed by the rubble. Everything in the rubble was completely decimated to ash, except a passport. And, like, there's so much that went into it that these buildings came down too quick and too precise that it wouldn't have warranted, like, the same reaction that a plane hitting a building would. Now, it's never claimed that the planes themselves brought down the building, which I think is the weird part. Because, like, you'd think that would have enough force to at least topple something over, right?
You would think people wouldn't, like, ask about that.
Yeah.
If they were like, yeah, the planes took it down, that's fine.
Like, yeah,
but why did they have to blame it on
Yeah.
fire?
So the whole explanation that was given is that because the planes hit the building, obviously it started a fire, billows of smoke came rushing out, and that the flames that engulfed the building are the reason that it collapsed, and it collapsed straight down because essentially and this is where the whole jet fuel can't melt steel beams argument comes in, because it can't. It's kerosene. It doesn't burn that high. And no fire, before or after 9/11, has ever been responsible for a steel skyscraper burning down. There have been buildings in, I want to say... Dubai, somewhere around there, that burned for like 17 hours. Steel buildings, and didn't collapse because that can't reach that high of a temperature to impact steel beams.
Right.
But essentially, what we were given by the U.S. government is that, no, it did not melt the steel beams, but the heat from the fire and the jet fuel was enough to weaken the structural integrity of the beams.
They expanded them.
Yeah, warp them, essentially, so that the floors collapsed on top of each other, thus creating the straight-down fall. There's a lot wrong with that when it comes to physics.
Yeah, there's some crazy physics going on there.
Yeah, so that was a lot. I know we got a couple minutes in the first segment.
Yeah, you're good.
You want to unpack?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. There's a lot to unpack here. This is a big topic, you know. I think there's
Forewarning, we might go over the first hour with this, guys, because there's a lot here. It's been the number one thing for a while that you guys have wanted to hear us talk about.
So in podcast, if it just cuts off, that's it.
No,
you didn't see it.
No. This will go for the entire time that we talk about 9/11 in podcast form.
Damn, can't be exclusive.
No. But yeah, a lot of problems there. That's not how fire works. That's not how heat works or steel works.
That's not how floors in a that's not how floors in a building work. I don't know. That's
the biggest thing for me,
the fact that it's not equal. It was not equal, like, flames on throughout the floor.
There were floors that weren't affected. There were floors that still had power in the building.
Yeah.
So it's not like it just did it all equally and they all just fell at the same time like a controlled demolition would be.
Right. That's the thing too. As I talked about the fact that no building before or since that has made of the steel structure has burnt down because of fire. 9/11, the Twin Towers, only 2 buildings to ever do this.
Yeah. Interesting.
Which, kind of a red flag right there.
Yeah, right.
False flag maybe, but it went down in minutes. Like, we've all seen the videos. Minutes it took to collapse this building.
Yeah.
Buildings have burned for hours on end, days over, and not collapsed. They've had fire damage, obviously, but they have not collapsed to the ground because of structural integrity. In that collapse is a crucial piece of evidence. We'll get it to you right after the break on the Rebel Radio Show. Sorry for kind of rambling there.
Dude.
No. We have so much.
Wow.
Oh my god, my shoulder hurts.
We're playing tennis.
That's elbows.
Well, playing tennis wrong.
I've been playing tennis super wrong.
Just don't bend your elbow.
Straight arm.
I play straight arm tennis. You boys playing that straight arm tennis?
I told you boys not to be bending your elbows. You play that straight arm tennis. You play it right.
We play straight arm tennis in this house, boy.
Hits him with a tennis racket. Papa, no!
That's great.
Oh, that was a big change.
What?
Oh, I went from mango, orange, and pineapple to lime.
And does it have
Nope,
any lemon?
nope, that's lime. That was I'm tearing up a little bit.
Aw, so sad.
Sometimes I get the same way when I'm having a normal poop, and then it turns into not a normal poop, and I'm like, aw, damn. Right, guys? Everyone else feels that same way, right?
I cry every time.
Thanks. Thanks, Shaggy. Help.
There's a lot of good in the world, Shane.
Yeah.
Puppies and flowers.
Yeah.
Random acts of kindness. There's a lot of bad in the world too, like terrorism and diarrhea. That's the two big ones.
Yep.
Bush did explosive diarrhea.
Classic.
Confirmed.
Bush had diarrhea confirmed.
Fucking damn it. What's it called? Occam's razor? The most obvious answer standing right. Obviously.
Bush ate fucking Chipotle beforehand.
Fuck.
Damn it. How did I not think of that? I love Green Day.
This is a weird Weezer phase. But
I think all of Weezer was a weird Weezer phase.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
Remember when Weezer got chastised for releasing Beverly Hills? Because they said they sold out.
Really? I didn't know that was a thing.
I guess like hardcore Weezer fans hate Beverly Hills because their sellout song that sounds too poppy. But I'm like, I think it's a pretty good damn song. They filmed it at the Playboy Mansion. This is a cool fucking video.
Yeah.
If anything, that sold me on Weezer. What?
Who's that guy?
Does U2's apology
No.
sell you on YouTube?
No. They can apologize with money.
For damages? Emotional damages?
Yeah, Bono apologized today for putting the Red Album on everybody's phone.
Wait. Really? I still don't like Bono. Fuck you,
he's
Bono.
a piece of shit.
Um,
U2 not forgiven.
Hashtag U2 not forgiven.
Are we talking
Put
about?
that on a t-shirt.
Are we gonna be talking about Larry?
Larry? Cable Guy?
Larry
The
Silverstein?
lackluster.
No, Lucky Larry. Larry Silverstein. It's. Look up. Cause I only know a little bit about
You
him.
look up.
Yeah.
We should have looked up all the songs that were banned after 9/11 and played all those.
Oh.
We should have.
Eva Destruction's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Highway to Hell is one of them.
Eva Destruction is a good song.
All caps.
Oh, is that who that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm jumping right back into it.
Mm-hmm.
No Dillian or Dallian.
It only gets deeper.
Yeah. Well,
So my uncle
ain't
said.
that the truth? Yeah, well, I heard it from him too. So let's talk about this. If it is a planned detonation, which, if you ask me, it looks like it, because you know what fire damage looks like. Houses have burned down. We have an extensive history on how things burn, which is a great title for a book. If no one has a book called How Things Burn, let's fucking make one,
That
guys.
could be really cool.
Just a picture book of
Death
shit burning.
metal band name.
That's true. Sounds like an early 90s, like Breaking Benjamin kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so everything in this rubble was pulverized.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in the offices, the concrete, the floors, it
That's
was
insane.
reduced to dust.
That's wow. That's almost a little bit. What'd you say? Unbelievable.
I guess it gets more unbelievable. Except a passport
Uh-huh.
that was found on the next street over, untouched, unburned, in pristine condition. This passport It's hard to say without laughing. This passport belonged to the man who supposedly hijacked the first plane.
Really?
Yeah.
Perfectly right there.
Everything in these offices was turned to dust, which is remnants of a controlled destruction and the amount of force it takes to turn everything to ash.
Yeah.
Except
for the guy who did it.
Yeah, the terrorist who supposedly hijacked the plane's passport, which I think it's funny that terrorists had passports to begin with.
How did it get out of the cockpit, out of the building, and into the street, the next street over?
It's like that feather from fucking Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump?
Yeah. Insert Tom Hanks movie here, please.
Philadelphia.
Yeah. In Seattle, yeah.
What we are told happened and how they obtained this passport is that upon impact to the first tower, the debris, which it did, you can see on the video, debris shot out the back of the plane, which is natural because impact and force, understandable.
Right.
A single passport, however, to go from the cockpit all the way through the plane to the next street over and land untouched when everything else was smoldered to ashes. That's a little more far-fetched.
That's a lucky passport.
Yeah,
that passport made it out scot-free.
That terrorist had a hell of a plan, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
very aerodynamic passport.
Well, we're going to be doing a lot of jumping around.
Yeah.
Let's just get that clear first.
Sure.
I want to talk a little about the terrorists.
Okay.
The quote-unquote Muslim, Saudi Arabian, maybe Afghanistan. Again, I talked about this before and on. We entered into war with Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
We invaded Iraq. And the people who were supposed to hijack the plane are of Saudi Arabian descent. So I really don't know what the focal point here or how these tie together.
Yeah. It kind of seems like we were just like, fuck the Middle all of America was like, fuck the Middle East.
It's classic.
Horrible.
It's classic America not knowing the Middle East.
Yeah, right.
They're brown-skinned. That's all they knew.
Horrible.
But let's talk about the terrorists real quick, because I got two other instances that are pretty fucking wild, if you ask me. There was one who was supposed to have been the mastermind behind one of the planes, who was not on the plane, stopped at the airport and searched by TSA, or somehow they obtained his bag at the airport.
They got him? They're like, his friends are fine.
Yeah.
Let the rest of them go.
We'll get their passport after.
They're safe. They seem good to me.
But in this man's bag, along with flight simulator routes of this attack, supposedly, and there was like a Quran or something like that, and other stuff that would be quintessential terrorist travel-on bag.
Okay, yeah, like
he had a will with him.
The to-go kit for...
Yeah.
Okay.
But the one thing they noticed is that he had a will with him. If your plan is to fly a plane into a tower on a suicide mission where everything is going to go up in flames and turn to ash...
Why would you have a will?
Why would you have a will on your person?
Unless you had, like... a shit-ass ex-wife, and there was, like, a weird way that she
I'm taking his fucking will.
She was in his will, but that's, like, a one-off.
Yeah,
like,
he didn't want that will.
He's like, I gotta make sure I have the plan, gotta make sure I have the good... I'm taking this. Fuck you, Karen, you son of a bitch.
Give me the will.
But, so, interesting thing there. What really sold me on leaning towards the conspiracy side was the whole passport thing, because that's a little too convenient.
Yeah, that's very, very serendipitous.
Yeah.
Is I think what I would say.
You want
it fall perfectly right across the street,
out of the crime scene,
yeah, untouched, and
that's the one thing that we preserved. Apparently.
Opened up to his picture, and
the police just happened to find it first, and like, oh well, look at this, we got our guy.
A spray paint red circle around it, an arrow.
Speaking of finding our guy, of the pilots, the quote-unquote hijackers, terrorists, of the terrorists that were said to have hijacked these planes, if you want some more concrete evidence as to, we might not be getting the full truth here, even if you don't believe it was planned detonation, if you don't believe this, that, or the other, I think this is a little bit of evidence to we're not getting the full picture. One of the people that was published in the BBC of his picture and his name of one of these
the
terrorists, yes, responsible for one of the planes, was actually a man in Morocco who had reached out and said, I don't like that my name and picture are being used, saying that I died piloting a hijacked plane in 9/11.
Oh.
His workplace in Morocco reached out to him to ask him about these, because obviously, if your face is being shown on national television saying that you are a terrorist who died
in the
taking down
attack.
the Twin Towers, yeah.
But you were at work yesterday.
Right. It's a little
crazy.
sus. So the government's answer to this is, his initial response was, I don't know why. Obviously, he's mad. He's I don't know why my picture and name are being shown. I was clearly not there, and I'm clearly alive.
Yeah, that wasn't me, obviously.
He thinks, the man who was falsely identified thinks that they got his name and identity because he took flight school in Florida, and they just kind of pulled him as the wrong person.
So he was just like won the unlucky lottery.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
he was racially profiled.
Yeah. Which begs the question of the U.S. government saying, "Oh no, we it's the right name, but we must have just grabbed the wrong picture."
Oh wait.
So the U.S. government has now said that.
Was he Middle Eastern?
Yeah, he was of Middle Eastern descent.
That's awesome.
So the U.S. government, on record, their answer to this was, no, that's the right guy. We must have just grabbed the wrong picture. So they're saying 2 people of that same specific Middle Eastern name went to flight school in Florida, and they mixed them up. Cool.
Again, very serendipitous.
Little sus, guys.
Yeah, works out very perfectly.
A little sus.
Yeah. That's.
While we're on the topic of the hijackers, just real quick, because I know we're heading to the end of the second segment.
Mm-hmm.
They were taken over, or we were told that the planes were taken over with plastic box cutters.
Mm-hmm.
I just find that hard to believe. I really do.
Yeah, I don't think an entire plane is being like, oh no, plastic box cutters.
Not to be disrespectful or anything.
Yeah.
But like a plane full of people can't stop 1 or 2 guys with box cutters.
Yeah. That's something where it's like, you gotta try to tread lightly there, but also 100% see that if it's just saying that, or if the reports are that all they had armed on them was plastic box cutters, I don't know. I mean, again, no one was in the plane, obviously. Like, no one here was in the plane, or no one on the ground today was in those planes, so it's like, you can't say, but at the same time, you gotta think, like, there would maybe potentially be someone who would be like, yo.
Well, they were apparently able to overtake the one that was headed to either the White House or the Capitol building in D.C. That got rerouted and landed, or, as some conspiracy theorists think, shot down in Philadelphia. Philadelphia?
Pennsylvania.
Outside of Philadelphia? It was PA.
Yeah.
But there was one safe, quote-unquote, landing, I guess, where the passengers are said to have overtaken back the plane and landed in...
Well, they crashed.
Well, they still took the plane back, is the report. And they crashed the plane or landed the plane in Philadelphia. Pennsylvania. I don't know why I always want to go to Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
They landed the plane in Pennsylvania instead of what was assumed to be the target route of either the Capitol building or the White House in Washington, D.C. There was another plane that made a big old loop and went back to Washington.
Did a loop-de-loop?
Did a whole loop-de-loop. And somehow evaded severe military missiles and air defense. And I just, of all of these, like, I think there's a lot of foul play when it comes to the towers falling and conveniently finding a passport when the black boxes that are set to be the most indestructible thing on the plane for that very reason were obliterated in these attacks.
Yeah.
But we find a passport, it just so happens to be of the terrorist. I think that's a little sus.
Yeah.
I think the Pentagon gets a little more sus. We're going to talk about it when we come back. It's the Rebel Radio Show live, uncut and uncensored. Hey, we're still live on the radio?
No.
Just making sure. Just making sure this is still broadcasting.
So, I asked a pilot what he thought, so I have that.
Okay. Okay. Just making sure we still did have feed. Because a year ago today we were taken off the air.
Coming back a year later.
If there was any of them this year, it would be this one.
Ain't that the truth?
I don't think they were too butthurt about the Ed and Eddie conspiracies, but you know. Criticizing the government on the most major terror attack on American soil might do it.
Yeah. A lot of range on this show.
Yeah. And in 2 weeks, back to poopy jokes.
Yeah.
So an animal escaped the Columbus Zoo.
Yeah.
How did a horse get on the highway?
Yeah.
My favorite is always watching the numbers fluctuate, like coming out of conspiracy season, because all the people that listened for the theories, and then are like, why the fuck are they talking about this?
I had a really good thought. I was thinking, because we could kind of format it the same as this, but what if we do a month of guests?
Yeah.
We'll have a guest on, like, we'd obviously have to plan it out, time in advance, but, like, guest for, like, say, a month of fucking, December or something like that. Guest every week for the month. That would be, and we could do, like, different topics relating to, anything, whatever the guest feels most comfortable to talk about, I guess, but, or we could just do, like, a regular show with one other person, just, I don't know.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Just so that I was thinking more too along the lines of like it would give us the same kind of structure as this, where it's like, okay, we plan it out and then we're gonna be talking about probably these.
It's
five
more of the
things.
long show format than the.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. How's the floor?
Is this in poor taste?
Pulverized the Eiffel Tower? Are you kidding me?
No, bombs away as your government. I was thinking more.
Fair enough.
This was probably banned.
Kill all the fags that don't agree.
I remember, I don't know if this was even one of the songs from the games, but I remember anytime a Green Day song would play in the Tony Hawk games, I would always be like, I have to skate better during this song. I have to put on my best moves during this song.
I can't let Billy down.
Yeah. I always pull off like sick-ass tricks.
You ever, when was the last time you went back and looked at the set list for the first Rock Band? It's all bangers.
I don't know when the last time I played Rock Band was.
I almost bought it the other day.
Or Guitar Hero for that matter.
I might buy both of them.
I would rather play Guitar Hero.
Oh, absolutely not.
5 seconds.
Pentagon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have Boeing 77 schematics back here too.
All right.
757.
We're 3 segments in already.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting to the third plane.
Mm-hmm.
It attacked the Pentagon.
Boom.
Which
we exposed you. They attacked the Pentagon.
we got them, guys.
Breaking news.
There's a lot here. I think personally, the Pentagon is where the conspiracy really ties together.
Mm-hmm.
Because while a lot of people criticize the demolition, even though it looks very set, planned demolition,
mm-hmm.
a lot of people criticize the reasoning behind it of the false flag,
mm-hmm.
as well as just the overall aura around the Twin Towers,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The Pentagon seems to be the one that's least talked about, but I feel like there's the most going on.
Yeah, the Pentagon, I always thought it was interesting that, like, 9/11 was such a huge event, but also at the same time, Pentagon totally got hit, too. Like, the same exact thing happened at the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, yeah, that also happened, but 9/11 was really bad, and,
So
more of a spotlight on. And maybe that's because it was in New York, but also Maybe not.
The plane that was hijacked that eventually hit the Pentagon was a Boeing 757.
Yes.
Big plane.
Big old plane.
Big old honking plane.
Mm-hmm.
The aviation route that it took. I have heard. I am not an aviation expert.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a pilot. I don't claim to be.
Mm-hmm.
I am simply your messiah when it comes to Mondays.
Yeah.
However, the path that I have heard explained and that I see in front of me, it does a big old loop to get back to get on course in the opposite direction to go to the Pentagon. Goes almost around the Pentagon, it would seem, to pull this nice, tight little angle and come right into the west wing of the Pentagon. Now, I have several issues. Before we actually dissect the flight path, I have several issues here. Number one, the Pentagon has a big-ass radius around it, just like most government facilities do. That is a no-fly zone. It is government-restricted airspace.
So a 7-mile radius.
It is 7 miles?
I remember that.
Okay. And even at the time, again, it's not 2022. You got to think technology is advanced. But it's not. This isn't some ancient time. It's 2001. We had anti-aircraft missiles. We have military defense ready to take down anything that is going to be invading that space. That is why we have that military airspace surrounding these.
Right. It's for the...
Right.
Yeah, right.
It loops through that airspace once to make this turn. Then comes back in it. And hits the Pentagon with no shots fired, no kind of missiles launched at it, no fighters sent out to it. It hits the west wing of the Pentagon, which is under construction at the time, meaning there's not going to be a lot of people there. And it is the area that has been double reinforced because it holds, tax documents and financial documents in that west wing.
So important money stuff.
Yes. Important financial documents held in this wing of the Pentagon that has been specially double reinforced to make sure it stays safe.
Right.
So, number one, going through the government airspace untouched twice. Number two, the fact that it hit the west wing specifically that is double reinforced and under construction, so no one's there. It can take more of an impact.
Yeah, such a perfect, if there were a place for it to hit type of situation.
Because obviously, if this is a plan orchestrated by our government, you're not going to want to spend all the money to rebuild the damage, right?
Yeah. So it's like, we'll just hit the part that's already,
The 2 or 3 other little pieces on top of this are eyewitnesses have reported that the plane and the hole that the plane made were way too small to be a Boeing 757. They think it is a planned missile strike or something of that nature, a smaller plane that wasn't the hijacked plane.
I have more on that.
Awesome, because the hijacked plane, too, went missing for about 30 minutes. It was untracked for about 30 minutes while it was en route to the Pentagon, which, how do you not track a plane?
And that's something, too, that I have a question about, too. I don't know, you guys might know more, but, did airspace try to contact the plane?
Yes.
Did they?
Yo, are you, what you guys doing?
So the problem with that is there's roughly 4,500 Boeing 757s in the air every day.
Okay.
So it's not out of the norm for a pilot not to answer.
Okay.
But is it out of a norm to watch a Boeing 757 pull this big-ass fucking loop in a 180 of where they came from?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then fly through government airspace?
Yes, however, because it was untrackable for that.
But why was it untrackable?
They turned off the tracking in the cockpit.
Gotcha.
No cock tracking.
One other little thing, 2 other little things. Let me throw on before we dive deeper into the Pentagon. All of the surveillance video, there were 17 or 18 different places that had surveillance that could capture the west wing of the Pentagon, including a gas station that was right outside of it, were all confiscated within moments of it being hit. So the only film that exists of this attack is, like we talked about with the JFK assassination, the Zapruder film. It's kind of like that, where it's just people's third-person camcorder little...
Yeah.
That's the only kind of film that we have that's been released.
We
that's
do
interesting,
have... There are pictures of the wreckage.
Right.
There's pictures of the wreckage, but you think there would be...
But
we physically see the towers falling in the Twin Towers.
It's so interesting that there's nothing on the Pentagon, the Pentagon.
The best part about the pictures is there are still pieces of the plane.
Yes.
So the rotating engine disc is visible in one of these pictures.
On fire, too, right?
No.
Oh.
But however, aviation experts have looked into this and realized that the dimensions of this rotator disc fit the Rolls-Royce RB 211-535 turbofan.
So not a Boeing 757.
So the Boeing 757s use the Rolls-Royce RB 211-535 cutaway turbofan.
So a different fan.
A complete different engine. So the engine that is pictured belongs to a much smaller aircraft.
So let me add this on top of that. We have these pictures that are government released of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the canon according to the government.
Mm-hmm,
this is what we have been given. Here are the attacks. You can see. Look, plane.
Yes.
It's just in pieces.
Plane on fire. Look.
Within moments, within hours. Same thing goes with the World Trade Center. Within hours of the attacks, the plane parts, the steel, and the rubble were put on ships to China and melted down before either crime scene could be investigated, which is giant red flag number one. If you know anything about law, you know that nothing in that scene is supposed to be touched by any governmental power until it can be investigated to find out exactly what happened. Not only were all of the parts in scrap and shrapnel and plane removed from the Pentagon gets an extra layer because they had gravel come in and fill the entire Pentagon yard.
Where, like, the plane had crashed?
The entire Pentagon yard.
Oh.
It was covered in gravel. So, you want to talk about cover-ups, they legitimately covered up the ground.
Yeah.
Jules,
crazy.
What more do you know about the flight pattern and just the Pentagon as a whole?
So I asked a friend, and I simply
An aviation expert?
Yes.
Okay.
If you will. And I said, out of your profession, what do you believe happened to the Pentagon flight? And he said, if you ask me, this was not, one, a 757, and two, could not have been done if the Pentagon didn't know it was happening.
Yeah.
And that's where he stood without going overboard with...
Legality.
Yes.
Couple things. The path that is shown and the path that we have, again, not an aviation expert, is said to have been a very, very small percentile of experienced pilots could pull this off. Now,
so it's hard to do.
Yeah, it's the angle of the turn that is made to loop back through the Pentagon airspace.
With a 757.
Right.
Yeah.
Smaller plane, fairly plausible.
Right. But when you're dealing with a Boeing 757, a very large plane, to make such a precise turn through government airspace and back in is damn near impossible. To where, like, military generals and military pilots have said, I don't know how you would make this turn with this plane if you didn't have years of experience. The pilot, the hijacker, who was said to make this turn, again, only had about a year of flying experience.
So, new guy.
But
making these big turns.
Yeah. The biggest things...
Pulling a Lightning McQueen.
Yeah.
The biggest things when it comes to the Pentagon for me... number one, traveling through the airspace twice, and nothing was done about it.
Yeah, super weird.
And then just the lengths they went to go, okay, nope, this we have to cover everything up now. If this was a terror attack, I could understand taking away surveillance footage because we want to figure out what's happening.
Yeah.
But to immediately destroy the crime scene and be like, okay, no, we have to do this now. That's where it gets a little dicey for me.
I don't understand why they didn't comb through a little bit more before they melted it all down. Like,
you'd have to think that was the plan, right?
Like, were there people? What about the people on the everyone on the plane dead? And I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
And did they get the bodies out? Like, how does that work in terms of like, for the families having funerals and stuff like that? Like, I'm sure. If I were, like...
Well, there's multiple monuments for people who didn't have anybody to bury. So...
Okay.
You know?
I see that.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that, it was all, like, wiped up so quickly. Just like, okay, no, nothing happened. We're good. Back to business.
But, I mean, I understand from, like, a focal point of, like, America didn't want to look at that, so they brushed it under the rug. At that point in time, and now we think back and we're like, oh, they should have combed through it. But in the moment, Was anybody really thinking that, or were they thinking we got to get this shit out of the road in New York?
That's fine, but the actual square mileage that was affected could have easily just been, it's a terror attack.
Yeah.
Your boss isn't going to be mad if you don't show up to work the next day. They could have very easily closed off that part of town and brought military in to say, hey, no one's touching this until we get this figured out.
This area is closed off until we understand what really happened. Yeah.
I mean, of course, get the people out and come through.
And I guess that would be the counter argument, is that it did take days to find everybody that was in there and go through all of it and try to see if anyone was alive in the rubble.
Yeah.
That they were like, you know what, just get rid of all the shit. It's less to dig through.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
It's one of those things where it's like, looking back, yes, they could have done a little more to do it, but in the moment, they weren't thinking about it.
Yeah.
They were thinking about getting in there, saving people, making sure we can even get to people quick enough.
And it's clearing up the dam. Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's a really interesting point.
Looking at it from a conspiracy aspect, right? If you are in the mindset of, our U.S. government planned this, you'd have to think that their planning going into this was that the fact that this is going to be such a major event, people aren't going to look into all of these small details. We're going to tell everyone this is a terrorist attack, and it's going to be a huge traumatic event, and all they need to know is we're going to go get the bad guys now. And I think if we're playing devil's advocate for conspiracy here, I think that is exactly how it worked, and we're just now, in the past 10 years maybe, getting to that, and that's why it's been so taboo. It's like, well, let's sit back and critically look at this, because this doesn't make a lot of sense.
Everything that we've learned, in the past couple 10 years, has really opened everybody's eyes.
Yeah, from the government standpoint too, like, if you are the people who are planning this, quote unquote, it worked very well in the sense of, like, the 9/11 like really brought America together as a country, and like made very like pro patriotism. Let's go get the bad guy. Let's go get Al Qaeda. You know, like. The government officials just seemingly like pointed their finger at someone and they were like, attack, and we're like, rah, pitchforks, and it in that sense it worked very well, but like it's just, I don't know, it's a very crazy, and I mean there's the whole like, is it too soon to talk about? No, I think it should be. We should look at this as,
I think it's time to look at things critically here.
I think we should look at it as critically as possible. Because, like, I was thinking, like, oh, were there conspiracy theories at this time, really? Or was it... Because, like, there's that immediate rush of, like, emotion of, like, oh, people died in the country, and so this is big, and this is... But then, like, you take yourself out of that for a second, and you're like, well, wait a minute. So there probably were people inspired, like, having these thoughts... right off rip,
I said at the beginning of this that it's a real borderline one for me, because at the end of the day, I don't want to believe this theory. Everything in me, being an American citizen, doesn't want to believe this theory.
Right.
As terrible as it may sound, I want to believe that 9/11 was a terrorist attack done on this country from an outside source, and that we acted in kind there.
Yeah, like an ignorance is bliss.
Right. Yeah. Sitting here and diving into it to go through this, though, I'm a little more on the fence.
It just kind of makes you feel sick.
Yeah.
That this could be a possibility in your country.
Right.
It's not something that you want. It's just something that there are facts for.
I talked a little bit about the passport really selling me as a big selling point as to why I think we need to relook into this, and that things are just a little too convenient in lining up. The bigger thing for me, I think this is what it's not talked about a lot. The passport's a big thing, the flight pattern's a big thing, the controlled demolition, the way it fell is obviously the big thing. One thing that's not talked about that I think should be is George W. Bush at the time. George W. Bush was at an elementary school for an event. This was a televised event. This was a promoted event for weeks. That was promoted that George W. Bush, President of the United States, is going to be at the school doing this book thing, right? this is on video. You can look it up. You can see it. When the first tower was struck, you could see the Secret Service informed President Bush that, hey, World Trade Center was just struck by a plane. And I think the initial report is that Bush said that's a terrible miscommunication or something along those lines, where he didn't think it was a terrorist attack initially. The second plane hit. He was still at the school. Here's my big issue, right? If we are going with the narrative that this is a terrorist organized attack, that it's a strategic plan to take out the Pentagon, the World Trade Center, and then the Capitol or the White House, wherever that fourth plane was headed, the Secret Service, by that point, should have gotten the President of the United States out of the place that was televised that he was going to be. You would have to think that a terrorist organization would be going after the President of the United States, who is known to be in this exact location, and that they would have, as soon as they got word that a plane was taken over, got him out of there and somewhere else. Not televised, not around a group of children. That is the big thing for me, is that President Bush continued to do this appearance as the trade centers were falling, and Secret Service didn't feel the need to take him out of that situation.
Right. It's like an elementary school with the president in it isn't the perfect cake with a cherry on top for a terrorist group. No, come on. That's they're going there.
The fact that they knew if this was a attack on American soil by a terrorist group, not on American soil, they knew exactly where the president was the entire time. And the fact that Secret Service deemed that it wasn't a threat is beyond crazy. Like, I genuinely don't understand how you could explain that one.
Bush did 9/11.
It's kind of seeming like it.
Bush did 9/11.
I just don't understand.
I'm on Team Bush did 9/11.
In most terrorist events that have been,
documented.
The terrorist group comes out and claims this attack.
Yeah.
No terrorist group came out and claimed the attack.
A bunch did.
Well, yeah, a bunch did.
A bunch of That's the interesting
right.
part, too. A bunch of terrorist groups came out and claimed them, but not Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
That is who we pinned this on.
But the one that didn't is the one that we said did.
Which, don't get me wrong, Osama bin Laden, bad dude. Terrorist. Like, without a doubt in my mind, I'm not trying to say that he was innocent in this situation.
Situation, yes.
Not sponsored by him, and we
don't want to be, and we physically can't be. But the thing is, like, I hate talking about this because it makes you sound like you're taking the side of the terrorists, right? But if multiple terrorist organizations, specifically in the Middle East, are saying, yeah, we did that. That was us. And the one guy that you're trying to pin down and say, I know you did this, says, this wasn't me. Why would you not take credit for that if everyone is trying to brag about infiltrating the United States as military?
Why wouldn't you be like, oh, yeah, I did do that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that was like their hurrah plan, wouldn't you think they would call that out?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what's been like that's normal in the terrorist norm, I guess.
In the terrorist meta.
Yeah. It's in the terrorist meta. Yeah. There's so much that just doesn't make sense,
And that's another like interesting part with it. You touched on it a little bit, but like to look at the theories around this, it's conspiring. You have to like look at it and it's not like it's not
because
what
it was so shut and closed with the government.
Yeah, because it was the government was so tight-lipped about it, and it happened so fast, and we were just like, okay, brush it off, never forget, like. And then we pointed fingers at the bad guy, and we were like, oh, bad guy. You have to look at it from the point of, like, the terrorists or something like that. And it's not, like, fun or, like, cool or, like, talking about Ed, Edd n Eddy or anything like that. It's like, oh, shit, okay, like, this kind of sucks, and this is horrible, but, like, what if this was the case, you know?
And again, in the moment, it's hard not to look at it as an American, right?
Yeah, right.
And I think for the past 2 decades, it's been hard not to look at it as an American. But you got to remember, too, as an American, I think it's becoming more and more common knowledge as years go on, and it has been for a minute now, not to blindly trust the government. I mean, fuck, we talk about all the time that during the pandemic, the Federal Bureau of Investigation legitimized and released hundreds of documents on extraterrestrials, UFOs, and aliens existing that they have documented and recorded. And for decades, tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists have been saying this.
Prior to then, it was all tinfoil hat conspiracies.
And then out of the blue, they say, "Oh no, all of this stuff actually exists. You guys are right."
Yeah.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that in 10 to 20 years, we get some government official, some president, some vice president coming out and saying, you know what, I think it's time to acknowledge that 9/11 had ties to the American government, and here's what they were. Will they come out and say it wasn't a terrorist attack? Probably not. But I think there will be some kind of sufficient evidence of, like, someone was paid
Foul
to do
play,
this. Yeah.
Some kind of, okay. I see that. I
don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because, again, we're as time goes on, we're digging deeper into the legitimate aspect of what happened in each location, and nothing seems to be adding up.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is like, so we were talking about how next week we're going to be touching on like old theories and stuff like that. Maybe in 10, 15 years, this is something that when we go to touch back on it, there's a lot to there's a lot to look at. It's the story will have evolved a lot because it was only 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Yeah. So it's like there in give it 10 years, give it 5 years, there could be a lot more that comes out. Give it 20 years, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
100% see that.
We have, obviously it's 9/11. It's tons that we could talk about. We could do 3 hours on this easily, probably. There are a bunch of other things involved in this that aren't exactly the Twin Towers, aren't exactly the Pentagon, that really just kind of drives the point home that it seems there's some foul play here. We're going to continue into the next hour with some of those, as well as some stuff that you guys have sent us and comments that I've got throughout the show about different aspects of the 9/11 attacks. When we come back on the Rebel Radio Show, we'll dive deeper into that. It's live, uncut, and uncensored on CBW.
Let me read this one.
Yeah.
Jules gets it.
Loud vape break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know the guy, but I'd heard about that.
Yeah.
Well, that goes along with where is it? This isn't the one I'm looking for. This one, the Wall Street stock, when they bet against American Airlines and United Airlines the day before.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Let me actually.
Did you guys hear my stomach?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Dude, I read this fucking thread yesterday. This exact thread.
Number 4, crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm gonna when we come back in, start with building 7. Just to finalize all the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go kind of all over from there.
There's a hole in my straw. That really sucks.
There's a snake in my poop.
That's what I was waiting for.
That's a really shitty bong. Evan asked if we're still alive.
Yes, we are.
Are we for sure? Still live on Facebook?
On Facebook, we are. And we are with the radio because I see Pixie's on there.
Alrighty. Dope.
Welcome back to the Rebel Radio Show. For those of you just joining us live here on CBW Radio, it's not often we do this. We're going into the second hour on the same conspiracy. It's the most requested that you guys have sent us for the past 3 years. We're finally digging deep into the 9/11 conspiracy theories. I want to make a correction. Earlier, when we talked about the Pentagon, I said there was probably 20-something cameras that were confiscated. That had Pentagon footage. It was 82 of the 86 cameras in the area that were confiscated. That had footage of the Pentagon being attacked. We're going to go through some of the other big theories now that we've covered the Twin Towers and the Pentagon.
Can I do a quick honorable mention to the Beatles did 9/11?
Beatles did 9/11.
Beatles did 9/11.
It was Capitol Records. You can ask Corey; he was there.
Damn.
Let's talk about Building 7.
Okay.
This is the big one that really drives home the point: jet fuel can't melt steel beams. Building 7 was in that group of the World Trade Center. Obviously, 1 and 2 went down, and 7 also went down. No plane hit it. It was said to have been from the spread of the debris
Collateral damage.
And yeah, essentially it caught on fire
Okay.
and burnt to the ground from the other 2 towers and the debris coming off of those and the plane. This is the prime example of this building was seemingly untouched and burnt to the ground, even though it was a steel building. And again, we talked about the fact that, just like the other 2, collapsed within minutes, while buildings have been reported made of this steel structure to have burned for hours and days on end, still standing. The way it collapsed, again, straight down, very minimal damage to the area around in terms of a building collapsing. Like, it's the biggest argument against it. And if you don't know, obviously jet fuel is primarily kerosene. Kerosene cannot burn at a temperature high enough to melt a steel beam, and it's certainly not within that time frame. If buildings can burn for hours, this one cannot collapse within minutes. Again, if you missed the start of the show, we talked about the fact that the government's argument to that is that the steel beams were simply weakened because of the heat coming off of it, and the floors themselves collapsed into each other. But again, in that time frame, minutes does not seem to work.
And the same thing that happened to both the Building 1 and Building 2 of the World Trade Center happened to Building 7, but only because of debris and what damage from the other 2 buildings.
I did read an article where like multiple people report hearing like an explosion from the basement.
Yeah, that was a big thing too. So we didn't even touch on the people in the city around the area reporting hearing booms close to the base, which I understand the argument against it where sound does travel a lot slower, farther away as well. So, like, by the time you hear an aircraft above you, it's past you.
Yeah.
Understandable. But if you are physically at the base, you're obviously going to hear, especially in a city scenario, the way reverb works and waves bounce, you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
A fucking plane hit a building.
Yeah.
You're going to hear it. But people report hearing specifically at the base levels of explosions.
Even the janitor was reported to hear explosions.
Let's talk about the money side of things real quick.
Yes. Money.
So let's go the day before. Let's go the day before the attacks happened. Let's talk about inside trading. There were many big companies that placed bets against United American Airlines the day before. Obviously, 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
Stock dropped significantly
Right.
for United and American Airlines, respectively, and a lot of people made a lot of money on it
Wow.
because they bet against it. They aren't the only people that made a lot of money on it, though.
Yeah, that's like Lucky Larry. So, this is I saw this on Twitter and I did a little bit more digging, and because it's interesting. So, Larry Silverstein is the owner, or was the owner, of the World Trade Center. I'm not sure if he still is today, but Larry was absent from work because he was at a doctor's appointment. He later claimed that the appointment was canceled, and rather than returning to the top of the tower for breakfast, he decided to walk around the city. Larry's family, who worked there, was also absent, and they escaped without harm, including his daughter and son. They were both running late that day, supposedly. Larry also was fortunate enough to have recently taken out a $3.5 billion insurance policy only weeks before the attack. He did it in July of that same year. And then he went to attempt to claim that the amount twice because there were 2 attacks. So Larry and his family managed to escape death and profit billions from the fall of the tower. So the owner of the building made money and just happened to not be there that day.
And just happened to, just now think about taking out insurance.
Yeah. So very, very serendipitous for him.
Did nobody look into that?
I got a little more that no one seemed to look into. Marvin A. Bush. He is the president's... I want to say cousin. I don't think it's brother. I want to say it was his cousin.
Cousin brother?
It might have been. It's the Bushes. But he was George W. Bush's younger cousin, I want to say. Because I think he was...
in the family.
Regardless,
somewhere
closely related to George W. Bush.
Yeah.
He was the owner of the company, or one of the... He was the president, sorry. He was the president of the company that managed security for the World Trade Center. So you want to talk about... Well, how did this happen? How did we get no military attacks? How was there no defense? How did we let this happen? And let it happen twice.
Yeah.
The president, who is said to have orchestrated it, right? His family is running the company, or ran the company, that is in charge of security for the World Trade Center.
Interesting.
There's too many ties.
Yeah.
There is too much going on.
Too many things that are just a little bit too coincidentally perfect for the situation, you know. Perfect or perfectly unperfect. You know
Let's talk about that too. Military plane testing was that day as well, right? That majority of the military planes were unable to make the call of action because they were in use.
Really?
Yes. However, I did a little.
happened to be testing that day. Sorry, guys.
I did a little more research as well into that because I'm like, it seems very suspicious that one day in particular, the United States military would send out all of their planes to do flight testing or to do whatever this event was, that we wouldn't have something on reserve in an event like this. And again, people will say, well, it's that post 9/11 mindset. Now you think that because we've had a terror attack. But I think if you're running a government, you should have always had that mindset.
Yeah.
There was, in fact, a military base, I want to say 13 miles outside of the World Trade Center. There have been airmen who worked at that base reported, and there's documentation of them saying that they were sitting in the cockpits of their planes waiting for the word to go, once the first tower was struck, and they were never called upon to act.
Wow. Interesting.
The fact that all of this is here, and we have witness testimonies in different branches of different sects of life.
Yeah.
And it's too much, and I'm getting worked up now because it's one of those things. We've done a couple theories where it's just there's so much here that goes together, and just so much that doesn't make sense about what we're being told that it should be pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
That there was, at the very bottom line, some kind of foul play here.
Yeah. 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 And our government still just is like, yeah, no, that was a crazy terrorist attack. They totally all.
Yep.
They got us.
Do you think maybe our government was? I feel like not all of them were dirty cops. I feel like they were just following orders. So do you think
Probably
some of them feel like shit now, and they realize that it's like different, but they can't say anything?
Working from the inside of this?
Yes.
I'm sure they got quite a hefty payday.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of them got paid off. Like, I'm sure people who knew about what was going on got, a pay bump and a promotion and a pat on the back, and those who knew and didn't like what was going on left already, Like, I don't think the people who saw what happened or, like, knew about the goings-on and weren't in support of it, I don't think they stayed at their job much longer, whether that be their choice or not, sort of thing,
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the Pentagon, right, and the fact that the wing that was hit was under construction and very few people were actually at work that day.
Yeah.
And that's where all of our money documents.
That seems very, I understand it was under construction, but the fact that it hit the section where nobody was there really kind of I keep coming back to this, but it's just another cherry on top. At this point, we have more cherries than cake. Dude.
Yeah.
There's so much here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to go to what some of you guys said here. Jeff Stritch, our morning man here on CBW Radio, heavily invested in this as well. He was talking to me all last night about different aspects, different things to research here. One of his big points was cell phone calls. This is 2001. Yeah, put yourself in that 2001 mindset.
Right.
Cell phones did not work above 10,000 feet. The plane that was flying, Flight 93, just to make sure I got the right plane here. Flight 93 was flying at 35,000 feet, well above 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
And they were still receiving phone calls. Of the calls that we have that are recorded, 2 of them were recorded to be from phones that were on the plane to be used because you can't use your cell phone.
Right.
The rest of them were reported as cell phone calls.
Making a cell phone call. Yeah, that just doesn't line up.
It's just sloppy. At the end of the day, my biggest complaint is if this was in fact what we are theorizing it to be, the government was just very fucking sloppy in their cover-up. Okay, I'm going to sound like a broken record going back to this comparison, but let's go to the UFOs. For years, we didn't say, oh no, it was this, it was this, it was this, it was 9 times out of 10, they don't exist. You're crazy? They don't exist. It's not a thing, no comment.
Yeah.
This seems like an extreme extent to where we have an excuse for every single thing and we have it pretty fucking quick.
Yeah, and they're still just like, nah.
Yeah, and they still don't make sense because we were just throwing shit to the wall to see what sticks. And it's because there was fire. Fire burns and things fall.
Yeah.
But that's not how physics work. I'm getting too fired up. We're probably going to do closing statements here in the next half. Stick around. Stay tuned. The Rebel Radio Show, live, uncut, uncensored. The black box thing really fucks me.
I'm wondering if they just believe it's like a Boeing 757 because it has like a different, I'm wondering if the hijackers didn't make it trackable as a Boeing 757 when they fucked up their tracking.
That doesn't explain the whole theory, though, and the picture. Because even if they changed what it is tracking as. It was still a 757 that was
reported,
and that is what the government reported was there.
Yeah, crazy that. Yeah. Like, what makes you think they said that? You know, like, why would they say that plane? Why would they say a Boeing, you know?
Why would they release pictures of, like, these parts that people
It's sloppy.
work on?
It's fucking sloppy, man. They literally like, all right, let's do this. Throw some plane parts out.
Big plane. It was a big plane. That's a big plane, right? Big plane. That's what it was. I promise I was there.
It's like they got people. And I'm glad I'm not saying this on radio right now. Because it's quintessential, like, thought process of George Bush, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they got people who were in positions of great power but didn't quite know everything going into it. Like, hey, a plane hit this fucking building. Let's make it look like a plane hit this building. Like, all right, we can do that. They didn't look into what plane it was.
Planes burned down, right? Yeah, planes burned down.
They
fire.
were like,
There'd
get
be
a plane.
Fire.
Yeah.
There'd probably be fire, right? Yeah.
It was
burned
Jerry.
down.
He was he was in charge of the 757
God
parts.
damn it, Jerry.
Sorry, guys. Not trying to
Jerry,
joke.
it was a fire, Jerry. Have you seen that?
Kramer, what do you mean you brought a box cutter on the plane?
Have you seen the script of the 9/11 Seinfeld episode? They wrote a script for.
Did they?
Yeah, they wrote a script for Seinfeld 9/11.
Oh, baby.
Please tell me the hijacker was Kramer.
Was there some bit like that in it where, like, Kramer did something that...
I want to look it up now.
I feel like that's inside felt taste.
This is our middle segment, right, of 2?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, my times are way off now.
Yeah, we already had first segment. We break at 15.
Break it down.
And then we break at 30. I just don't understand. If they were going to set it all up themselves, then why release any proof of, like, why say anything? Why?
Why have an explanation if everything got covered up so quickly?
Yeah,
Be like,
Yeah.
oh, we don't-
explanation that doesn't make sense on top of that.
Like, oh, we don't know.
Yeah, well, you could have just
It's an
left
act
it
of
at that.
There's that picture.
It's an act of terror. We don't know.
Yeah. Like, they didn't have
That
to...
picture, too, of the Pentagon is really just bare bones.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
here's a plane in the foreground,
Yeah.
fire.
Mhm. And, like, two people.
Like, that is how I would stage a disaster picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a rebel. We touched last year on a lot of theories that kind of got us in some hot water as far as broadcasting goes.
Yeah.
We talked about JFK. We
Yeah.
talked about the Pandora Papers. We talked about a bunch of stuff that got us banned from Facebook in multiple countries, that got us taken off Live 365 and
Yeah.
the radio.
Yeah.
Today's actually the anniversary of one of those.
Yeah.
I want to say it was the Pandora Papers.
Style is checking to make sure we're still.
Yeah,
running.
I keep checking during the breaks. So if we drop, let me know on the Discord server, stylesradio.com. But if anything was going to do it this year, it was going to be this. We joked earlier that you'll get everything from cartoon conspiracies that we talked about last week to something as legitimate and as eggshelly as 9/11. We've gone over an hour. It's not something we typically do here, but again, you guys have been asking for this for 3 years in the Styles Radio Discord server, and we felt that it is now the time to do it and do it in detail. We're gonna
do it and do it good.
We're gonna get into closing arguments and closing theories here in a second, and then we'll move on to our second theory for the day. I know we're only gonna have 40 minutes to talk about it.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I felt like 9/11 had to have center stage. Before we do that, I do want to say the one thing, and I think I can speak for all of us, as a reason we kind of put this off and we're a little hesitant on how we approached it, is it is 9/11. It is a terror attack on America, and people lost their lives in it.
You still have to be like respectful towards the
Right.
lives that were lost and stuff like that.
That being said, on top of being, oh, you're the tinfoil hat conspiracy, you're disrespectful if you don't approach it well. On top of
in
that,
good taste,
right?
yeah.
I will say that everybody who has reached out during the show, to my surprise, has been on Team Conspiracy. I've had 6 or 7 now people message into me and say that they're 100% on the side that Bush did it or the U.S. government did it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't doubt that in the
I don't think
following.
Bush did it. I think he knew about it.
I don't.
Sorry, we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. I don't doubt that in the following decades that more will come out and more people will start to say that this isn't what we are told. With that being said, Shane?
Yeah. I kind of, with what you just said, I think in the coming years we'll find out a lot more. I think we have a lot here that just doesn't make sense, and we're waiting to, see what the pieces look like so that we can fit them all together. Because we know there's a puzzle here. It's just like, where do we put the pieces, and how do we? And I think time will be the biggest benefactor. I think it's really interesting that the Pentagon was so hush hush and everything about from the towers to there's a lot of things that are very like, oh, that's coincidental. Oh, that works really well. Oh, that kind of ties together very nicely. Oh, it was the same name, different guy. Sorry, but it's like interesting, very very interesting. And yeah, time will tell. I don't doubt that there was foul play.
Where do you lean? Coming out of today.
I lean towards it was probably something along the lines of a false flag policy situation where the government conspired this to incite the war on terror. I think there's probably, American racism involved. I think there is probably like money shit involved and trading involved, to make higher ups in political or people who pay to have political party back to make them more money. And I think because of all that bad shit, a lot of people lost their lives and a very tragic thing happened. And I think, what you said, they did a very sloppy job to cover everything up and make it look like, oh yeah, no, this was just an accident, So,
Jules?
I think that it's not exactly government.
Okay.
I think that it's Wall Street that's behind all of it.
Elaborate.
So this made a lot of money in a lot of ways. By the end of the fourth quarter in July, the GDP went up 2.7%.
Okay.
So in that sense, the guy who owned the building, he knew to get everybody he fucking loved out of there.
Yeah. Lucky Larry.
The president, he probably knew about it because he was like, playing at the building.
Yeah, I'm at an elementary school today. I'm talking with the kids today.
This was planned.
Yeah.
I'm good. I know.
Yeah, and then the person comes up to him, whispers in his ear like, "Yo, it's happening." He's like, "All right, I'm just gonna chill here."
Yeah.
Like are you telling me to go back? Fuck you! I'm not going back. I'm staying here. I know what's going on.
If the government was completely involved, it would have been well covered up.
Interesting.
If every other person that's high up in the Wall Street bets.
The subreddit?
Yeah.
Reddit profited.
All those higher ups, if they all get together and they plan something like this, who's to say they can't pull it off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to tack on to that too, with everyone that made money, when the scrap was inevitably hauled off, melted down, and sold to China, the state of New York profited from that. They were the ones selling the metal.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
It's money. This was a big money scheme, and it worked.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that at all. But with that being said, doesn't that not tie into a false flag, where the goal at the end of a false flag policy, or the goal at the end of the false flag is to get a wartime economy, is to get us to produce, to make money for us, and not rely on another nation.
Yeah. No, that's another thing with like the inciting the war on terror, so that we can have inflation and the housing crisis and shit.
But
Like this shit
so
can happen.
that's where it comes in where I'm
Because of
saying
9/11,
Yeah.
because of a post 9/11 world.
that's where
Yeah.
where it comes in where I'm saying like, no, most of the government didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I see that.
Okay.
I see that.
of course, in the sense of
Some people in the government who like had their money right knew.
Yeah.
they
Had-
knew
had
and
people.
they tried to do the best that they could to make it look this way.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then the rest
I
of the
see
government
that.
was like, "Oh shit, that's what it is.
So some-
let's run with that."
So someone like Larry Silverstein, who lives in New York and is around that, that stock and up and down business, he's around that, is kind of a little bit more connected than other people in the government per se.
They just pulled the wool over most eyes.
Yeah.
To that-
Okay.
To that,
I see that.
I'm gonna use that into my closing theory.
Okay.
I know is the common haha joke that Dick Cheney was the president because George Bush was just the dummy, for lack of a better term. I want to, or at least it's my belief, that George Bush wasn't in the execution of this. He might have been in the know, but I don't think that's why, or I don't think he was a mastermind of 9/11. I don't agree with the Bush did 9/11 theory. I agree that 9/11 was more than likely an inside job. Again, it sucks to say. It's hard for me to sit here and say it. I'm coming to terms with myself saying it during this. But for me, there's too much foul play here. There's too much that doesn't add up with the passport, George Bush not being escorted out of the public eye, and the flight path that was taken at the Pentagon and the cover-up following being the three major factors for me. It seems too much of, like you said, Shane, oh, well, this is just conveniently here, guys. We know who did it now.
Yeah. Works out very serendipitously.
It's very Scooby-Doo mystery.
Yeah. Like, oh, we found it. It's right here.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I to get into more depth with it, I think there was a planned detonation. I think, unfortunately, the hijackings were some kind of a deal between us and Saudi Arabia. I do think the people on board were not part of this. I think that is the real tragedy here, is everybody who lost their life in this, because whether it was a domestic or international terrorist attack, the people that lost their lives in the city around them are the ones that suffered, just so someone could get rich either here or there. Again, I think that it was some kind of internal governmental conspiracy with how precise things were hit, with the fact that we never did hit the White House or Capitol building, wherever it was planned, was never hit. Seems very convenient that the reinforced side of the Pentagon was, though. It's almost like it's how you would plan a terrorist attack to go in best case scenario. So I think at the end of the day, I do lead more to the conspiracy side of it, as gross as that is. Again, like I said, guys, we are running out of time here for today. If you want to know more about this, we could probably do 3 whole fucking shows and still not cover all of it. StylesRebelRadio.com gets you to the Discord server. I will say the majority of everybody who I've heard from today, actually everybody I've heard from today, has sided with the conspiracy side with it, with one aspect or another. We got to go to break. When we come back, we won't be straying far. It's more government secrets on the Rebel Radio Show. I hope you're banned.
Like I said, I think the people who needed to know to make it happen knew in the government. But other than that, everybody else acted on, this is terrorism. This is terrifying. Let's get this shit done. And it was left at that.
There's something for me, and maybe it's just because I want to give him the benefit of a doubt here for some reason. In the video where George Bush is told about the first tower getting struck, you can see, because again, he is around children and in a public setting, so he can't lash out and all this.
Like,
so you want to, obviously he's going to try and keep his cool, right? But the look in his eye and just his facial composure when he's told and responds is just a look of like, acceptance and thinking of what to do next, which I guess would be the case either way. But it almost seems more of like, well, they did it.
Yeah, like, okay, well, wow.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually done.
Yeah. So I don't think he masterminded, but I do think he knew.
Okay.
If we're going off the theory that the government workers that might feel remorse now but got a nice payday, I think the Bush family can fall into that category.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's the problem. I think this was just a big payday for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, close out of all these so I avoid talking about them more.
You don't have to get technical with a T-shirt. No, you don't. I could see Shane wearing this shirt. I'm gonna send it in the. I'm gonna send all of them.
Send me everything.
All right.
Send it.
I love that website.
You're listening to the Rebel Radio Show.
There's physically a rendered penis on your screen that you can shape and mold to your desire. Why?
Why not? Live on CBW.
Welcome back to the Rebel Radio Show. It's live, uncut, and uncensored on CBW Radio. It's the last station you'll ever need, and it's the last VPN you'll ever need by going to CBWRadio.com. Click on the Surfshark icon and get 3 months completely free of encrypted web protection when you browse. You also get
3 whole months?
3 whole months.
Wow.
You also get an 86% discount from there on out. It's going to keep you safe online. Go to Surfshark VPN, courtesy of CBWRadio.com. We're going to kind of stray away from 9/11 here. If you've joined us on the Styles Radio Discord server, you know the other plan of action today was sticking with the government, but more so locations they don't want you to know about and what they might hold. I did a lot of talking in the last hour and a half about 9/11, about conspiracies and technicalities and all that good stuff. I'm going to let you guys kind of take the reins here. Tell me about Mount Rushmore.
Did you know that there's a secret room behind Abraham Lincoln's head?
I do now.
It was really interesting looking at the pictures of it. I think listeners at home should go Google pictures of look up a Hall of Records, Mount Rushmore, or Mount Rushmore top view or something like that, because you always see the same couple pictures of Mount Rushmore where it looks so huge on the mountain, and it's they're ginormous.
It do be a mountain.
They are some ginormous heads on that mountain, but looking at it from the top, first of all, the heads look a lot smaller on the mountain, and second of all, there's a door. There's a big door.
Is it a door or is it more of a hole?
It's a hole.
Whole door. It looks
So
it's a passageway.
So it's basically just a very empty hole. It was supposed to be something different, but it never was finished.
Well, it was supposed to be the Hall of Records, right?
Yeah, basically. But what they ended up doing is there is a hole inside this hole at the very front, and inside is a wooden box, and on top is a 1,200-pound granite slab. And supposedly, tucked inside this wooden box is the
No. Rewind. It's the wooden box. It's encased in titanium as well.
Is it?
Yeah, titanium safe.
Okay.
And then buried and has a granite slab over it.
So, in this box, it's supposed to be the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and a biography of Borglum, and short descriptions of each president featured on the monument.
That is the guy who designed Mount Rushmore and the subsequent room/Hall of Records that was going to be behind it. Is that other name?
I just can't say it.
I think that's where the aliens hang out.
So, from what I understand,
Mm-hmm.
this safe that is behind here
Mm-hmm.
has five documents,
Mm-hmm.
but they're pressed on these sheets. They're not the original documents. They're pressed on these.
Really?
Yeah. Sheets.
I would figure they would be the original documents, and I
think that's where the big conspiracy comes in.
That is the conspiracy, that they are the original documents, and everything that we see is the copy.
Yeah.
I thought it was common knowledge that, like, cause what, Smithsonian? Where do you see the Declaration of Independence at?
We saw it in
Did we?
Washington D.C.
Is it in D.C.?
I don't.
Sorry,
Yeah, it's somewhere in Washington D.C.
It is on display.
Yeah, it's on display for like
Museum of
tourists and
History.
stuff.
It's on display.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
you
thought
see
it was
National Treasure.
okay. I thought that was common knowledge that wasn't the first copy. That wasn't the real one.
I don't know about that.
No,
Yeah, I think.
most people believe that.
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
think a lot of people are like, oh, that's the real one.
People are dumb.
I don't know if I believe that these are buried behind Mount Rushmore though.
I do.
Really?
Well, I don't know what could be there.
Because who is gonna get there? How are you gonna get
That's
those
the thing too. Okay, so there is not like,
There's an elevator.
but
to the top?
this
of the
isn't
heads?
public.
Mhm.
This isn't open to the public. You
No.
can't go on top of Mount
Yeah.
Rushmore.
It used to
Yeah.
be. It was sealed.
And very few people know that this exists.
Yeah.
Very few people are going to make the trek on top of Mount Rushmore to begin with.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that it's there and it's pretty much just open behind it is kind of fucking wild. Because it seems like you're drawing more attention to it now, you know?
You're like, here, look at this.
Like, to me, if
It
they
was-
did the same thing but kept it underground in a bunker somewhere,
It was meant
it would
to
make
be,
sense.
Yeah. This is.
This is meant to be like the future world.
It's like a time capsule.
Sees this and they know our history.
Right.
That was the point. Now, whatever they decided to do with it is a complete mystery. And that's where it comes from.
I think the complete 180.
And the fact that, like, even in the national, what is it, National Treasure movies?
Mhm.
When they go on top of the
Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore,
Mhm.
why, if we have these pictures of how it looks behind it, why was it like a legit mountain, nothing behind?
Well, let's not try and base this off movies.
I'm not,
Listen.
but I'm just saying, like,
Listen, Nick Cage had a vision and he saw it out. All right.
but
No.
still, it's based on, like, this. Like,
Here's-
there's something in there.
Here's my thing. There's a lot of secret there's a lot of secret hidden areas in
Mhm.
America that are like, hush, hush, don't talk about this place. It's all underground. And this is just like out there in the open.
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
this is
come
just
look
like,
at it.
yeah, it's like literally, I thought it was a door. It's a hole. You can just walk right
yeah,
in that bit.
that's-
You can parachute
yeah.
into there.
That's my point.
Realistically,
That's what
like,
bothers me about it. Is
It's
like,
super out. And maybe like you get into that hole and then it's like Indiana Jones booby traps where like spikes start flying out of the wall. But like,
I think we're
still,
not getting the
really-
whole story here.
yeah, really easy to get in there. And then you're telling me that it's just like I could get a couple strong men to push a piece of granite and then like,
Crack a titanium safe.
okay, well, yeah, titanium safe. I mean, it's semi. This one's like just come and get me, you know.
My issue is, okay, and Jules, I think it's the complete 180 of what you said. Yes, this was originally supposed to be the Hall of Records. There's going to be a big walk-in museum for the
Yeah,
public here
yeah.
that was going to document our history as a nation.
I see the vision.
It wasn't because the guy died and it was never finished,
Yeah.
and that's why we have this. But I still think, to what Shane said, this is supposed to be just like a time capsule for future generations that have not experience
Yeah.
the American government that we knew.
Yeah.
So if the world ends and when the next crop of civilization finds these heads and they go, what the fuck are these heads about? They'll find this,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I think that is entirely what this is for. I don't think that this is supposed to be kept secret.
Mm.
However, this could have been done a lot better if it would make more sense to me. If this was like inside the mountain, if there was a secret door somewhere that you had to get into that was like alluded to somewhere else, or we put it inside the museum or the gift shop here or something where it's not right out in the fucking open.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like, what is
In a
stopping?
hole.
Like Shane said, you could parachute into that. I'm sure you'd go to jail,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
could still very clearly go and see this and walk in there, and it looks like it's meant for tourists.
Weird that it's closed off too.
Yeah.
It was closed off to the public.
Why did they close it off?
There's
'Cause it
nothing to that.
It was open, and then they were just like, you know what? We're not letting
Yeah.
them see this anymore.
And there's nothing bad about it.
Was someone gonna steal it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna steal
It's
Mount
'cause-
Rushmore.
It's because Nick Cage, like, he can't be trusted.
Was he gonna like etch out their whole bodies?
Yeah, I was gonna say it. The Mount Rushmore is kind of unfair. George really gets the whole fucking
Yeah.
suit, and
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln barely gets I can't even see him from this angle, you know?
he's hidden.
Yeah.
And then behind him is a hidden path. A little
That's
hidden
so
passage.
creepy. That's such a creepy thing too, I think. Like
It's just weird
because
that
if you are an ancient or if you are like a future civilization and you come across these like that's going to be terrifying,
yeah.
you know?
and
then they're going to be like
inside
where's
of
the whole
it-
body?
Inside of it is like a old, outdated system that we're still going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Doesn't
Which-
make sense.
Nothing about our current government is like,
It's kind of like Easter Island, right?
There's just
yeah.
It's weird that there are so many like places in America that the government says you can't go here.
Yeah.
We have secret things going on
Yeah.
here that you can't. There's a place. So the CIA training base
Okay.
is called the Farm, and it's 9,000 acres. It's Camp Peary in Williamsburg, Virginia, and it's so it's supposedly home
Isn't that
to
like
the
Quantico?
I don't who
Quantico. The
Maybe.
FBI training base. There, you can't go.
probably. I just know it as the Farm.
Hold on. I'll look it up.
But yeah, I think it's weird that there's so many different locations that clearly like.
Yep.
Because I've always thought
Quantico.
that like Area 51 is so it's like so memed on and so like people know that there's shit going on there that the government would be smart enough to hide their serious stuff
Right.
someplace else.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, Area 51, fucking.
I think about it more and more, and I'm like, well, no one's getting into Area 51. Like there was
Yeah.
literally like a meme on Reddit where people showed up to Area 51 to try to charge
Yeah, that's fair.
Area 51, and like no one did it. You know, like no one's going in there, and the government, and it's because the government says no one's going in here,
Yeah.
and so we're just like, okay,
Yeah.
no, I guess we're not going. Like, I guess we're not finding out what's in Area 51. They might let us know one day, but until
I want to be alive for that day when like
Yeah.
we get the Area 51 BuzzFeed like
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
the scenes of Area 51.
yeah, they're
for the past 51 years.
They're touring Area 51.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like aliens are like,
Yeah.
like waving at the camera.
There is an entire city in Nevada that is Mercury, Nevada. You cannot access it. It's an entire city that the government owned. Actually, the United States Department of Energy owns, but is protected by the federal government and is entirely for energy testing, atomic energy testing, and all kinds of different testing. And that's literally all we know about it. No one knows the population, but people do live here. It has houses. We have aerial footage of it, obviously.
Uh-huh.
But it's just a big test site. But it's a city that people live in, and we know like nothing about it.
Do they have stores? Do they go
We
out?
don't know. We don't know. You can't go in.
I wonder if it's like a nuke city, and they're just like,
It's Nuketown.
yeah, it's like IRL Nuketown, and they're just know,
Nuketown is based off of somewhere.
is it?
I think so.
Yeah, but no, like, what if this is like a nuclear, like they just made a whole city for testing? I don't know. Are there videos of like cars driving around it, like actual people living there?
No, there's videos of people trying to get into it and the government stopping them, like so many miles outside the perimeter and saying, "Hey, you can't go any further. This is government property."
That's so weird. But is it all like, what if it's all nuke dummies and they're just waiting for the day to
It's
drop
just,
the
just
bomb?
like the crash test dummies.
Yeah, they're just waiting for the day to drop the bomb. Or if it's like a Truman Show style,
So Nuketown
it's
in
just a
Call of
cult?
Duty,
Mhm.
hang on, Nuketown in Call of Duty is based on a real test site in Nevada, outside of Las Vegas, about 65 miles outside of Las Vegas, and it was used for testing nuclear weapons. That kind of sounds like Mercury to me.
there we go.
I'm gonna kind of say that's the same
There you
place,
go.
Chief.
Yeah.
And like, going back to Area 51, it's weird that it was like off the rip. It's like, okay, there's probably secret alien stuff going on there. Like, what made us jump to that? You know, someone had to say something, right? Or someone had to spill some kind of beans.
Area
you know?
51 also in Nevada.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird to me that people were just like, this is the place where aliens are, and so now that's what people
Well,
think.
we talked
you
about
know?
it last week with Skinwalkers and the Skinwalker Ranch in Nevada. That you can't walk anywhere in Nevada without seeing someone who's seen an alien, apparently.
Yeah.
Like, what is
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
in Nevada that is
Nevada's
so
just
high
Yeah.
in extraterrestrials?
And,
I have
and
two
weird things going on.
I have two
Nevada
theories.
is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I have two theories that I just thought of.
Mhm.
Number one, the government is using Nevada because it is a barren, dry sand wasteland
Yeah.
outside of Las Vegas
Yeah.
for nuclear or some kind of other testing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think is far-fetched because we have cities like Mercury, which is used for atomic testing.
Yeah.
And we have Area 51, which who knows what goes on in there.
Mhm.
This testing is the reason that extraterrestrials are coming to Nevada. Something we're doing is making these otherworldly presences be like, what the fuck is going on down here?
Yeah.
Counter.
Yeah. Nevada's
The-
there's something weird
Counter,
going on.
hang on. Second theory, because this might be what you're about to say. Second theory is that it's the inverse.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens are coming here, so we're testing here.
Oh, no.
Like there is
We're
something
gonna- yeah.
weird going on in Nevada, and
Yeah,
we're just
Nevada is just a weird place, so we're like, fuck, we're setting up shop in
Yeah,
Nevada, and
yeah.
aliens are like, we got something here,
yeah,
Chief.
yeah. I see that.
I
see
think
that.
halfway, yes, the testing may be bringing extraterrestrials, and then also halfway, testing is turning things into the skinwalkers,
Ooh.
and that's why there's such a high.
You're saying like because of alien testing and doing weird alien shit in Area 51, we got like a byproduct of Skinwalker
that
Ranch
and the atomic testing,
and
like
Mercury and stuff like
all-
that.
Yeah.
I wonder this, because I feel like this is a more grounded theory. When the reactors melted down,
Mhm.
right? That area was blocked off for a long time
Mhm.
because flora and fauna were experiencing radiation and mutation
Mhm.
in response to that. Now it's not fucking Fallout
Mhm.
where people are death claws,
Mhm.
but mutations do occur with radiation.
Mhm.
I wonder if the reason that this town in Nevada, Mercury, is closed off to the public is because, yes, they do atomic testing there, and because of this, they got some pretty fucking mutated
are-
folks there.
Yeah,
They got
people
some
are
weird people.
mutated, and like everyone in the town knows what's going on. They're like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're just mutated, but like, yeah, I
They
see
wanted a
that.
place
Or
to
they
feel normal.
don't know. Or
I
they
see that.
don't know.
Yeah, everyone looks like this. Everyone looks like
Yeah,
this.
it's
This is
been
what
a
we look like.
generational thing where
Yeah.
they don't know things
So it's-
exist
it's
outside of
Yeah.
Mercury.
Kind of like a Truman Show.
So scary.
Yeah.
That would be so scary, and I would not fucking put it past the government.
The Mutant Show.
Oh, that would be so scary. I would be terrified. It's a crazy fucking world we live in, man. It's a crazy, like,
Imagine if a regular person got in there, what would they do?
so, yeah, freak the fuck out. But really quick, an insight into our minds. We thought this was going to be the last week of conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
We're all dummies, and it's not. We have one more week.
Next
of
week's Halloween.
Yeah, next week's Halloween. So we have one more week of conspiracies. But like, it's so crazy how many like crazy things there are to talk about. Like how many far-fetched or like unbelievable is such a common word now, but unbelievable things that happen in the United States or in the world, or like, you know, it's just so, I say it all the time, but it's so crazy.
Yeah.
All this shit is so crazy to me.
The fact that there's literally an entire town
Yeah.
that we have no idea what goes on in there, and we just sat here for 20 minutes going, well, what the fuck could it be?
Yeah.
Maybe it's this.
Yeah.
Maybe and none of it was far-fetched.
Yeah, and none of it was far-fetched, and like probably crazier than that, none of it was probably true. Probably something crazier,
Yeah.
like something crazier could be going on, or something much more mild and normal.
It could
be you know?
legitimately just be like, oh yeah, we used to use this for atomic testing, and then we realized that was a bad thing, and we've just kind of quarantined
Yeah,
this area so
yeah.
no one can leave because the ground is still kind of fucking
Yeah,
radiated.
yeah.
That's it literally could be something that's
there could be radiation there, but it could be very normal radiation.
Yeah.
To make like the people don't look they look normal, but
Yeah.
it's just like if they touch outside humans, they might hurt them, and so we keep the city closed
Well,
off for that reason.
At
you
that
know, like
point, aren't they radioactive?
well, yeah, but I mean, not in like a sci-fi conspiracy
Yeah.
theory.
That's
They
fair.
have
But,
4
like,
eyes.
still,
You know,
prolonged like
prolonged exposure to radiation.
so like if this person was to come out and have all kinds of issues.
See, I don't even think it's that much. I think honestly, like if that's what we're going with, it is something where 100 years ago we started testing atomic energy here, and then realized thereafter, hey, let's not use atomic energy because here are the side effects of it, and we
the
can't.
testing stopped.
Yeah, the testing stopped, but we can't just let people into this area because now the soil and surrounding area is radioactive and will be for several decades. So we are going to block this off. So people who are in here, I'm sorry, you're going to
Yeah.
have to live here. We don't want people from the outside coming in and getting sick. I think it's more so that this is the great part about conspiracies. It
Yeah.
could be anything.
Yeah,
And a conspiracy could be born every single day.
yeah.
Like Shane said, we thought we planned for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
There are 5 in October this
Yeah.
year.
we all are very dumb.
We have
Yes.
a calendar on our website.
Yeah. It literally tells us all the show dates.
Did not yeah.
Yeah. So we will be back. We will be back next week, and we're having the conspiracy melting pot
Yeah.
next
Conspiracy
week.
roundup.
Yeah. So
In costume.
in costume.
Yeah.
So what we'll be discussing next week are some points that we may have missed in some of the big theories we covered this year: cartoons, conspiracies, Disney, 9/11, the government research facilities. I'm already like
Yeah.
from 2 weeks back. I've kind of forgot what we talked about.
Touching on old stuff, touching on maybe stuff from years past, maybe if there's, and then we're going to also be talking about, like, other small things that didn't make the show.
Yeah,
you know?
so every year, of course, you guys send in a bunch of stuff, and we will let you know we can only do some of the top ones because we only have typically 4 weeks
Right,
to do
right,
this.
right.
With that being said, we tend to stick to the bigger theories or the theories that we can really sink our teeth into or are the most recommended, i.e. a 9/11, a Mothman, a Russian ghost radio signal. That being said, every year there are a handful that we go, damn, I'd really like to talk about this, but it doesn't really fit into our time that we have. We're going to be going over some of those as well. So some smaller theories that we may feel passionate about, but didn't have just the overall backing to make the cut this year, combined with,
We
again...
thought.
Yeah, combined with, again, as Shane said in the first half there, we're talking about some updates on old theories, maybe some Mandela effects, seeing what's going on, if there's been any progress in the years that have passed, or if anything that we missed this year talking about that you guys want us to talk about. Again, you can let us know at stylesrebelradio.com. Get you to the Discord server. There's a whole subsection committed to conspiracy theories. You can use it all year round and talk to us. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that we talk about them outside of conspiracy season, because doing my research for this, I realized we talked about JFK on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we did.
It wasn't even part of October. So there's always a chance that your theory will be talked about throughout the whole year. StylesRollRadio.com gets you to that Discord server. There's a bunch of other stuff you can do in the Discord server as well, like submit your findings from the internet to the Pigeonhole. It's a show where Evan goes through some of your stupidest internet findings, tweets, Facebook comments, Pornhub comments, or stupid memes, and reacts to them live once a month on the Pigeonhole. We also have other great mini-casts like Off Air with Shane E, which is
That's me. I do
kind of
that.
just a show.
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
It's just we talk. It's I don't know. I my vision was like how we talk off of the air, because we have good conversations on air, but we have good conversations off of the air too, and it's a lot more relaxed, and we don't feel this need to
Hit time constraints.
hit time constraints and give you the information that we have collected,
Right.
and so it's like this is kind of just our unbridled thoughts, and Sometimes it's
In the moment thinking.
yeah. Sometimes it's dumb. Sometimes it's bullshit. But other times you get really good conversations out of it. So it's fun off air. Yeah.
If you don't understand what he's trying to say with that, you can go and listen to it.
Yeah.
StylesRoboRadio.com in the
Probably
minicast
won't
section.
understand that either.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's one more minicast that we really pride ourselves on. It's the AIP.
Mm-hmm.
Got a new episode coming out this week. It's completely generated by artificial intelligence, from the script to the voice to the music to the image put on the show. The AIP is artificial intelligence monthly show on predicting things from food shortages to finding God to anything that you could fathom that an AI might pull out of thin air. You're not going to want to miss the next one. It actually features nuclear testing pretty high, and it's a little eerie, if I do say so myself. So make sure you're staying tuned to stylesroboradio.com for all of those shows and getting the calendar at the bottom of the page as well. Another website with a calendar, CBWRadio.com. It's got a showtime calendar for all of the live shows. We're live every Monday at 5 p.m. right here on CBW. But we have great shows going on all the time, all throughout the week. Our morning man, Jeff Stritch, Mo, and Sean on Saturdays, as well as Shaggerday nights. And I'm back on Fridays for the Rock Revival. You can get the full breakdown of live events, happenings, and more on CBWRadio.com. Of course, follow all of us on social media. Go to CBW and Styles Robo Radio to get all of those great links. And while you're there, you might as well check out repsports.com. You save 15% off your entire purchase at checkout by using promo code CBWSentMe. That's CBWSentMe at checkout for Raise Energy, Raise Swag on the go, pre-workout, hypersleep, all the good stuff you find there. We'll be back for the last week of conspiracy season next week on Halloween Day. Until then, to my left is Shani.
Bye, everyone.
Back in the right house is Jules.
Adios.
I've been Radio's Rebel DJ Style. Peace.